Welcome to Same Day, Different Century. I'm Zach. Today is June 30th. 92 years ago this morning, June 30th, 1934, Adolf Hitler flew to Munich, climbed into a car before sunrise, and drove south toward a lakeside resort in the Bavarian countryside to begin murdering his own men. Not enemy soldiers, not rivals from outside the movement, his own men. The ones who had stood in the streets for him, fought for him, and bled for him. The ones who genuinely believed they were the revolution. By the time it was over, the German state had crossed a line it would never come back from, and Hitler had demonstrated with absolute clarity exactly what kind of leader he was. This is the night of the long knives. To understand June 30th, 1934, you have to understand Ernst Röhm and why Hitler had come to fear him. Röhm was one of Hitler's oldest allies, a decorated World War I veteran, a career soldier with a face partly disfigured by a bullet wound from the Western Front. He and Hitler went back to the earliest days of the Nazi movement, the beer halls and street brawls of 1920s Munich. Röhm was one of the very few men in Germany who addressed Hitler with the informal du, the German equivalent of first-name familiarity. That closeness had been earned over more than a decade. More importantly, Röhm commanded the SA, the Sturmabteilung, also known as the Stormtroopers or the Brown Shirts. By 1934, the SA had swelled to somewhere between 3 and 4 million members, an enormous paramilitary force that dwarfed the German regular army, which was still capped at 100,000 troops under the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Röhm had built this organization into something he considered the true engine of the Nazi Revolution, and he had ambitions to match its size. He wanted to absorb the regular army into the SA and forge a new revolutionary People's Army, with himself at its head. The idea alarmed 3 separate power centers at once. It alarmed the German military establishment, who had no intention of being swallowed by a mob of political street fighters. It alarmed the conservative industrialists and elites who had made their peace with Hitler, but never with the SA's radical, anti-capitalist rhetoric. And most critically, it alarmed Hitler himself, because Hitler needed the army. President Paul von Hindenburg, now 86 years old and gravely ill, was dying. When Hindenburg died, Hitler intended to merge the offices of president and chancellor into a single position and seize supreme executive power. But that maneuver required the military's active support. The generals would never extend that loyalty if Röhm was threatening to absorb and transform them. Röhm had to go. The question historians still debate is exactly when Hitler made that decision, and whether he genuinely believed Röhm was planning a coup or simply found the accusation convenient. Because starting in early 1934, Heinrich Himmler and Reinhard Heydrich, the architects of the SS, began feeding Hitler a stream of intelligence reports alleging that Röhm was preparing a violent overthrow. Whether those reports reflected reality or were fabricated to serve Himmler's ambitions remains a matter of scholarly dispute. Hitler chose to act decisively and lethally. The killing operation was given a code name, Kolibri, meaning hummingbird. The planning circle included Hitler, Göring, Himmler, and Heydrich, with Goebbels brought in late. The date was fixed for the final days of June 1934. Hitler had been in the Rhineland for official appearances when the order was given. He flew south through the night. In the very early hours of June 30th, he landed in Munich. He first went to the Interior Ministry to confront 2 SA officers whose men had been put on alert. He stripped them of their ranks on the spot, and then got back in the car. The convoy drove south through the Bavarian Don toward Bad Wiessee, a resort town on the Tegernsee Lake, roughly an hour from the city. That's where Röhm and a group of senior SA commanders had gathered. By most accounts, it was meant to be something close to a vacation, a retreat from the political pressure that had been building for months. Around 6:30 in the morning, Hitler and his armed SS escort arrived at the Pension Hanselbauer Hotel and moved through the building, pulling sleeping men from their rooms at gunpoint. Edmund Heinz, one of the SA's senior commanders, was found in bed with a young male companion. Heinz was executed shortly afterward. Most accounts say at Stadelheim prison in Munich, though some place his death at the scene. The regime would later deploy this scene as propaganda, evidence of the SA leadership's moral corruption. The cynicism of that framing is almost breathtaking, given that Röhm's own homosexuality had been an open secret within the Nazi movement for years, and Hitler had personally shielded him from internal criticism over it, until now, when it became useful as a justification for murder. Röhm himself was handcuffed and transported to Stadelheim prison in Munich. In Berlin, the killing was already underway. Göring and Himmler were directing operations from the capital. SS execution squads worked through the day of June 30th and into July 1st and 2nd, working from prepared lists. The targets extended well beyond SA men. This purge was settling old scores alongside eliminating new threats. Gregor Strasser, once one of the most powerful figures in the Nazi Party before his break with Hitler in 1932, was killed in his cell at Gestapo headquarters. Kurt von Schleicher, the former German chancellor, was shot in his home in the Berlin suburb of Neubabelsberg. His wife Elisabeth was with him. She was shot as well. Karl Ernst, an SA commander in Berlin, was arrested in Bremen while en route to his honeymoon. He was brought back to Berlin and executed. Multiple accounts report that Ernst died shouting Heil Hitler, convinced to the last that this must be the work of communists, that the Führer would surely come to save him. He did not understand that Hitler himself had signed the order. The question of what to do with Röhm himself took an extra day to resolve. On July 1st, Hitler made his decision. 2 SS officers were sent to Röhm's cell at Stadelheim with a pistol and instructions to give him the opportunity to take his own life. Röhm refused. According to the accounts of those present, he said that if he was to die, Hitler should have the courage to come himself and do it. Hitler didn't come, and Röhm was shot in his cell. On July 3, 1934, the Reich Cabinet passed a law. It retroactively declared all of the killings legal, acts of state self-defense as the law described them. With a single legislative vote, murder became justice. The pretense of legal order was maintained just long enough to be stamped on a document and filed away. 10 days later, on July 13th, Hitler appeared before the Reichstag and declared himself the supreme judge of the German people. He told the assembled deputies that he had saved Germany from catastrophe. The official death toll his government acknowledged was 77. Most historians place the real number considerably higher, with some estimates running well into the hundreds. A telegram issued in Hindenburg's name, though Göring later admitted at Nuremberg the ailing president never saw it, congratulated Hitler on his determined action and gallant personal intervention. The German army said nothing. They were relieved. Their hated rival, the SA, had been crushed. And when Hindenburg died on August 2, 1934, the military repaid Hitler in full. The army swore a personal oath of loyalty, not to the Constitution, not to the nation, but to Adolf Hitler himself. That oath would bind German soldiers to a criminal regime for the next 11 years. The SA never recovered. It was sidelined and reduced to ceremonial functions, its membership stripped of any real power or purpose. The SS, meanwhile, emerged from the purge as the dominant force in the Nazi state. Himmler's organization had executed the killing, and its reward was independence, rapid expansion, and the institutional authority that would eventually build and operate the machinery of the Holocaust. The phrase Nacht der langen Messer, the night of the long knives, quickly became attached to the purge, evoking betrayal and political murder. What happened on this date in 1934 was a turning point, though most Germans at the time didn't recognize it as one. The Nazi propaganda machine had spent the preceding days priming the public, saying Röhm was a plotter, a degenerate, and a traitor, and that the SA had been an object of resentment for years, too loud, too violent, and too radical. For many ordinary Germans, the purge felt less like a rupture than a relief. The foreign press recoiled. A handful of German conservatives and legal scholars saw exactly what had happened, but the broader public did not rise in horror. They absorbed the official story, and so the legal facts of what occurred barely registered for those who might have been expected to resist them. A sitting head of government had ordered the killings of decorated veterans, a former chancellor, and his own closest allies, and had those murders declared legal by the same cabinet that served under him. The rule of law was gone. The distinction between legality and murder had been subordinated to Hitler's will. It would take years and catastrophe on a scale most people in 1934 could not yet imagine for the full significance of that moment to become clear. Ernst Röhm had believed in Hitler. He had helped build the movement that put Hitler in power. He had walked through the beer halls and the street fights and the years of grinding political struggle, and he had never stopped believing. What he hadn't understood, what many of them hadn't understood, was that they were never partners. They were instruments, useful until they weren't. That same day, different century. I'm Zach. We'll be back tomorrow with another date, another story. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, it's Zach. Real quick before you go, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. It really means a lot. If you enjoyed the show, all I ask is that you share it with someone that you think would enjoy it too. That's the best way to help us out. I'll see you tomorrow.